Hello everybody, thank you so much for taking the time to watch our emergency plan training video. It's our intention that after watching this video, if you happen to be involved in an emergency situation, you will know exactly what to do and how to respond and hopefully feel comfortable in that role. So let's take a look at the communications flows. How does word get out in the event of emergency situation? So if you happen to be the first person on the site to see something or an incident, you want to flag down the closest block leader or zone leader. Zone leaders are in the red shirt and block leaders are on every block. So once you communicate the situation to those folks, they're going to carry on the message to myself, the coordinator, and our Pulse chair. We will involve the police if the situation is appropriate. So this could very well be an emergency response situation at Peterborough Pulse. We get a lot of people there, and it's very easy to lose somebody. So in the event that somebody is missing and that reporting person comes up to you, you want to make sure that you stay with them, and you're going to take them to the nearest block leader, at which point we will collect the name, description, and the area last seen, and then Peterborough Pulse, as an event, will conduct a search for 15 minutes. If we are unable to locate that person, then the role will go to the police to investigate further. But it's really important that we maintain contact with that reporting person, because if we don't, they could very likely run off and try and find that missing person, and then we're in a situation where there's two missing people. What happens if you find the person? Well, you want to flag down a block leader and bring that found person to the closest information tent. And they'll remain there until we're able to reunite them with their next of kin. Now, a found person might not be, part of a regular search situation. It might just be maybe you're doing your regular duties as a volunteer, and you notice that there's a child unaccompanied. Make sure you assess the situation. The parent could just be, off to the side and well aware of where their child is. So just make sure that you understand the situation before you try to insert yourself into it. And as soon as you feel very confident that you have identified a missing person, whether they be a child or an elderly person, you want to go through the same sort of channels. Flag down that block leader and bring them to the closest information tent. So in the event of a medical emergency, something that's life-threatening, assess the situation and don't be afraid to immediately call 911. And when someone is hurt, as if there's a victim, if they've fallen, it doesn't matter. Do not move them and do not try to administer first aid. We do have first aid responders that can deal with that. But for the most part, if it's a life-threatening medical emergency, we're going to leave that to the professionals. So make sure you call 911 in a life-threatening situation. In a non-life-threatening emergency situation, if you're the first volunteer at the scene of the incident, stay with that victim and contact the block leader or a volunteer to go and run for the block leader. And then the Pulse team will send out our first aid volunteer crew, at which point they will handle the situation and take it from there. And like I said before, do not move the person unless absolutely necessary. And unless you're a first aid qualified professional, please leave that to our first aid team and to the ambulance team. Civil disruption. In the event of a civil disruption, such as say a fight breaks loose or somebody's being hostile, we want to follow this line of communication. So if you happen to be in the area, try not to insert yourself into it. Make sure that you're safe. Take a step back and notify a committee member, so anybody in a red shirt or a block leader, and then that information will flow to myself, and we're going to connect with a community group known as One City, and they work with people that deal with mental health issues, and so they'll come in and try and assess the situation, and if need be, we will then involve the police. So I'm not sure if anybody's looking at the forecast, but extreme heat is very much a real threat in terms of safety at Pulse. So make sure to take care of yourself. You can't help anybody else unless you're looking after yourself. So take lots of breaks. Make sure you drink a lot. If If you are feeling a little too overheated, we do have some areas along the route that you can go to that have air condition. So even if you see a fellow volunteer that looks like they've had a little too much heat, make sure you check in with them too. It's important to look after yourself and each other. Heavy wind is a very common thing to happen at events, and it's super easy for tents to just go flying. So in the event of heavy wind, myself and the Pulse chair will identify whether or not measures need to be taken. And if we do decide to take any action, the first thing we want to do is take down those tents. We don't want them to fly away. And any activities that may be impacted by heavy winds will be closed until the wind passes. Heavy rain or lightning. Pulse goes on rain or shine, even if it's heavy. But in the event of a lightning situation, it will be the responsibility of the Pulse chair to make the call as to whether or not to shut down the event. And for the most part, large events, the common practice is if we see lightning, even if it's not raining, we will shut down Pulse until it is safe to resurrect. Now, we love the media, and the media has always been really good to us. But in the event of an incident, the main thing we want our volunteers to say is that you cannot comment on an incident. If the media is asking about your day and general questions that is not directly related to a medical incident or an emergency situation, feel free to tell them your experience and share your joy with them. We fully encourage you to get pictures and snap on social, but in the event of any sort of emergency situation, you want to allow the Pulse organizing committee to coordinate what that communication line is. Evacuation plan. So let's say a serious incident occurs, whether it be a bomb threat or a major fire. It would be our goal to evacuate Peterborough Pulse as quick as possible. Now, the police are the only ones that can make the call for an evacuation plan, and so we will let them lead that effort. If it's possible, could you please, once you've evacuated safely, meet us back at the Peterborough Square, and that way we can do a run through of who's there and try and make sure that everybody is accounted for. If not, we'll be making some phone calls on those emergency contact sheets that you signed and trying to just make sure that everybody got off the route safely. So as long as Peterborough Square isn't an area that's been impacted, we would want to meet back up at Peterborough Square Food Court in the event of an evacuation plan because of a serious incident. So thank you for taking the time to watch this video and listen to me blab on and on about all the emergency situations that could potentially happen. I look forward to seeing you guys Saturday and can't wait to have all the fun and do all the things. So thank you for taking the time to volunteer, and please try and reflect back on our process. We definitely want you to be safe, and don't ever insert yourself in an emergency situation. Just try and report it. That's probably the best thing to take away from this video. Thank you so much. Take care.